Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Poz. With me today, a very special guest. He is, of course, a WWE Hall of Famer, former WWE World Tag Team Champion, and Intercontinental Champion. He is the Godfather himself. Godfather, welcome back to the two-man power trip. How you doing?
Well, thanks for having me on the show, man. I can't wait to get into some good stuff.
Yeah, so what's going on in your world? What have you been up to?
I'm retired from wrestling. I still do some autograph signings. I have my own cannabis strain in California, and a lot of ins and outs going on. But I stay really busy. Stay really busy.
Perfect business to be in right now, right? Cannabis?
Yes, it is.
How's it doing? How's it doing? Good financially for you?
Oh yeah, I'm doing very well with it. No complaints whatsoever. Plus, I'm doing something that I enjoy doing. So, I don't have a big part of it anymore besides, promoting and stuff. But all the hard work's been done. But it's a good product. It's at all the Dr. Green Thumb dispensaries in California right now. It's the only place it is. And, just enjoying life. Enjoying life. I'm basically retired.
Pretty cool, though. I mean, there's a perfect fit for the Godfather, right? The cannabis Godfather, perfect.
Yes.
What was going on with Table for Five? It's usually Table for Three, but I saw now it's Table for Five with you and the Bone Street Crew and the Undertaker and Rikishi and the Godwins.
That turned into a table for five. It was a table for four until Midian showed up at the end. But yeah, it was real fun. We did that. We did that at WrestleMania, so that was real fun. Had a good time doing it. Getting all the guys. I see just about all the guys, including Taker, all the time, but a lot of the guys don't. So it was good getting together and chopping it up. Did you see the show?
No, but I was reading a review on it, and I was like, "Oh, now I got to watch it." You guys were cheering everybody and giving them drinks. Like now I got to catch it. I know it's on Peacock, obviously, on the new WWE network, but now I
Yeah,
got to catch it. Yeah.
yeah. I think it was good. I watched it last week, and it was enjoyable. It's everybody just being themselves.
Pretty cool to get all you guys together at once as far as like on an actual WWE film show.
Um, it's only person we missed in that group that's still alive was Savio, and Savio had prior commitments that he couldn't get out of. So, you know, it was fun.
When you guys are together, obviously you guys are a really cohesive unit. Is some of you guys get along better than others, or everybody is pretty cool together?
No, we're all good friends. Yeah, and to this day, we're all good friends. I tend to I've known Taker a little bit longer than the rest of them, but other than that, man, we're all good friends. I talked to today alone. I talked to Rikishi and I talked to Hogman. So that's two that I talked to today. Yesterday, I actually talked to Rikishi, so I talked to Rikishi 2 days in a row.
Nice, keeping the BSK alive. You gotta love that. Yeah.
We love seeing each other. I don't see Savio too much. I see the Godwins. I see Taker all the time. I mean, and we communicate a lot.
Backstage, obviously, you got the BSK, you got the Click. Was there a lot of tension back there? Back in those days.
If there was tension between the two groups, nobody told me about it. I had friends on both sides. I was much closer with BSK, but Sean was my friend. Kevin, Razor, all of them. Scott, all those guys were my friends. I probably, besides Taker, I probably knew Scott and Hall longer than anybody in the BSK.
Was that a little overblown though? Like with the Click, the fans and myself included, like we think in our minds, like, oh, the Click, they were such a poison to the locker room backstage. Was that ever a case?
Not with us, it wasn't. I mean, people make more of it today. The Click was more a little political, but the people make more of it than what it was, especially with us. We had no animosity or no problems, at all with them. We had no problems at all with those guys. They were cool.
Where does the BSK, like, where does that come from? How does it get created? Like, who's creating it, and how do you guys all come together?
We were just guys that hung out. Not all of us were. Me, Yoko, and Taker were more of the strip club guys, but we all hung out during the day, hung out at night, played dominoes, watched each other's back. We played dominoes at TV all the time, and Yoko and Undertaker kind of came up with the idea of Bone Street Crew, and then Yoko was the one that like make it BSK instead of C, make it K for the crew. And so it was just BSK was time to play dominoes, and it was time to get together. It was just a bunch of good guys, man. We were all friends. What was cool about BSK is there was black guys, there's Samoans, there's Tongans, there's Hawaiians, there's Cowboys, there was such a necessity, can't even say it right now, in that group that it was just really cool.
A big Irish dead guy,
Is he Irish? I didn't know he was Irish.
Well, I don't know, whatever. Callaway, I don't know.
I know he's a redhead, so maybe.
Yeah. With like BSK, obviously Yoko, unfortunately, gone well too soon. Were you always boys with Yoko? Just like going back a ways?
Oh man, I met Yoko in the WWF at the time, and he was a great dude, man. At that point, we started hanging. Me, him, and Taker were in strip clubs every night. I mean, for years, every night. And so, yeah, we got to know each other. Then at the end, he moved to Las Vegas and started up a wrestling organization called BWF with a guy named Buffalo. So he lived out here. So I see him all the time, man. Yoke dog. I miss him to death. Great guy.
With you and kind of like knowing these guys, obviously, Undertaker, God, years, I guess it was Memphis, right? When you guys first met?
I think we met in around 88 in Memphis. Yeah.
What was your gimmick? What were you at that? Were you Soul Taker at that point? Like, what was your gimmick at that point?
I was Soul Taker, and he was the Master of Pain.
Right. Okay.
They brought him in, and I had just finished a little run with Jerry Lawler, and they're looking for somebody for me to work with. So they said, we're going to bring this tall, red-headed kid to work with you. He said, he's green, but he's been in the business longer than you. So we had a match that he talks about that was just crazy. It was a very physical match. And after that match, they decided to make us a tag team. And at that point, we became really good friends.
Seems that anybody came through Memphis, right? I mean, like everybody went through Memphis at one point.
Everybody from A to Z, from The Rock to Hogan to Taker to Stone Cold, whoever you want to go through, has back then. I don't even know does Memphis still run?
No, not really. There's not like a territory. There's smaller organizations that will occasionally run, but there's no territory there.
Yeah, well, everybody came through Memphis, and I mean everybody.
When he's, Master of Pain, he's a young guy, you never think like, wow, this guy's going to be one of the biggest stars ever, right? I mean, he's just your buddy. You don't really think like that, right?
No, never thought. I mean, I never didn't think he'd make it big, or any of us would. But, dude, we were just doing our thing, having fun, learning the business. I don't know if Taker thought that far ahead or not. I mean, we were just trying to make it in the business, and things went really well for him.
Crazy to like look at it now and think back then, like Ole Anderson, whoever it was in WCW, was like, you'll never make a dime in this business. Isn't that crazy? Like just thinking about it, it's like, wow, how could you not see money in this guy?
Well, that's good. That was the good old boy network, and he wasn't one of the good old boys. So of course he wasn't a good fit. I'm sure they said the same thing about the Road Warriors too.
Oh yeah,
they'll never make it. Bunch of muscle guys with painted faces. The one thing about me is I don't watch wrestling anymore. I haven't in a long time, and nothing against the business. Respect the business, love the business. Business made me money and a lot of good friends. I just don't watch much TV. Little TV that I watch ain't gonna be wrestling. So I hear a lot of things. What I have to say about the new product is I'm just glad the guys have a place to go to make money.
If you look at it, I know you don't watch it, but if you look at it, if you just look at BSK, it's like you're probably 6'8", whatever. I mean, Undertaker's probably 6'10". Yokozuna's huge. Rikishi's huge. Henry Godwin is a monster.
Oh, he's all of them are. Everybody.
All you guys. And then if you look at Duke the Dumpster Drosy, JBL, like all these guys are huge. There's nobody really. I mean, there's a few guys, but there's not like every guy is huge. Like when you guys were in the WWF, it was monsters.
Like I said, I don't talk bad about anybody. Things change. Wrestling change. Time changes. If wrestling is changing, it's because that's what people want. So it's like basketball. All 7-footers aren't centers anymore. Now they're shooting 3-pointers. So I think, but what I hear and the little that I've seen It's just more acrobatic now and more moves and more spots, and which is cool, man. As long as they keep the business alive, I'm happy. But it doesn't seem to be a big man's game anymore. And back then, like I said, I'm 6'6", and at the time I stayed over 300 pounds, and I wasn't by far one of the biggest guys, not even close. I was just one of the average size guys. I was just one of the average size guys in BSK.
If you think about it, yeah, which is nuts because obviously you're a big guy. So it's like, wow, how is that possible? Just all those big monsters together. Like Vince
Yeah.
signed them all.
Hey, well, that's where you went to make money, you know. That was the show. WCW was cool, but Vince bought them out. Um, that was the show, bro. That's where you wanted to get to the show.
How did you get there originally? I mean, obviously you're going to be Papa Shango, but how did you get there?
Um, I wasn't a wrestling fan. Never was a wrestling fan. I'm older now. I know I acted a lot younger, but I'm 61 years old. And so when I grew up, roller in the Bay Area, California, roller derby was much bigger than wrestling. Much bigger. They'd go at the Cow Palace, and roller derby would sell the Cow Palace out, and wrestling would come in and draw half a house. And so we were really into roller derby back then. I knew Rocky Johnson, Haystack Calhoun, Ray the Crippler Stevens, guys like that, Kenji Shabua, but we didn't really know it. Wrestling kind of came and grabbed me by the horns. And they were filming a movie in Vegas called Over the Top. It was a Sylvester Stallone, boom, 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 arm wrestling movie. And some guys were talking to me about wrestling. I'm like, well, I don't really know much about wrestling. They're like, you ever hear this dude named Bam Bam Bigelow? Because back then I'm tatted up. This is 80, 86. And, there's no black guys with tattoos unless they were in a fraternity or something. And I was sleeved up. They're like, dude, I was a monster. I was powerlifting. They're like, you should get into wrestling. I'm like, really? Yeah, I don't know. And they're like, well, this guy Bam Bam made over $1 million last year. And I'm like, how much? Wrestling, you made $1 million? Made a couple calls, literally, and I'm not joking. 3 years from that call, I'm in the WWF, and it just moved. I was in wrestling school for maybe a couple months, and Jerry Lawler seen me and put me right to work. My very first match ever. I never had a practice match. I didn't even know much. My very first match ever was against the King, and I beat him for the Memphis heavyweight title. My very first match. And so things just moved really fast for me. One being there wasn't many black guys in wrestling back then, and people always thought wrestling was prejudice. I'm like, the black guys were watching wrestling, but they didn't want to become wrestlers. And so I was so different, man. It just moved quick. And then when me and Taker became friends, he went to Japan. When he came back from Japan, I went to Japan. When I came back to Japan, he went to WCW. I went to Germany. When I was in Germany with Scott Hall, Owen Hart, Chris Benoit, Fit Finley, Dave Taylor. Those are the guys I was 7 months in Germany with. When I got back from there, I learned a lot working with those guys because we'd work every day. Now Taker was in WWF at the time, so they gave me a tryout, and then Vince hired me, and he goes, it's your face I have a problem with. He says, you have the body of a monster, but you have a baby face. Because I'm not looking for baby faces. I need heels. So he says, go. They signed me to a contract, and about 2 or 3 months later, they called me and said, hey, go rent the movie Live and Let Die. There's a voodoo character in it, a James Bond film. And he goes, we want to kind of take off. And Vince says, I want you to get that laugh down. This guy has a laugh that I want to get down. And so that's where it came from, man. And we just ran with it.
What did you think of the name Papa Shango? It's kind of a weird name. Did you like the name?
Well, I picked the name.
Oh wow, okay.
Papa
Why
was
did you
my
pick that name?
And it's Shango. The correct pronunciation of it is Shango, but I thought that sounded too country, Papa Shango. And so I made it Shango. It just sounded cooler. But Shango is the keeper of the dead. To go through the graves, you got to go through Shango. So who was actually a guy named Baron Samurai. And that's who he is in the some people say Baron Samedi, but it's Baron Samurai. And that's the guy in the movie. And we just took off from that, man. I thought it was cool. But yeah, I picked the name.
I remember being really cool, but like scary though. Like you're like not sure like what's going on. I mean, the voodoo stuff. I'm my God, I think I'm 12 at this point, maybe 11. So I'm still a little skeptical about what's going on.
It was before its time. It was before its time.
Do you think the networks like USA, whatever, do you think that were scared of it, or is that why Papa Shango didn't have a longer shelf life?
It's a long story. It had to do a lot with me and where I was in that place and time of my life. And, you know, they probably would have liked Papa Shango to do a little longer role. But like I said, wrestling, the thing about me is wrestling was never my main source of income. I always was part owner or worked at a strip club. And so I always had money coming in. So the wrestling money was cool, but I could survive without it. So that's why you would see me come and go. For me, wrestling was to be around a bunch of big, crazy, stupid idiots like me that thought like me and were strong like me and tough like me. And it was just cool being, it was like my own little biker gang. And it was cool being around people like that. But when I wasn't enjoying myself, I would leave. And then that's why you see me come and go, because I'd leave and then they'd call me and ask me to come back. And I'm like, no, I ain't coming back. And then they'd call me and say, hey, we want to do this. I'm like, no, I don't want to. That's not really how it went. But they would call me to come back, and then something would switch a trigger, and I'd be like, all right, I'll come back and do it. Then if I wasn't having fun, you'd see me. The only time that I stayed is when they brought me in and they put me in the Nation of Domination. I was having a lot of fun. So me and my wife created the Godfather because I wanted to stay around. And then once that became the Good Father, I was ready to leave again because then I wasn't really having fun. And they tried to, at that point, they were becoming more PG. They were getting rid of the suckets and then, Val Venuses and me. And so wrestling was changing. And so it was time for me to bow out, which I did. And to this day, I still been under a Legends contract with them. So they're still making action figures and they're still put me in the video games and I'm popping up on the network. So it's been a really good run for me. I mean, it's been 20 years since I wrestled and I'm still, they're still sending me paychecks. So I'm not mad at them.
Yeah, I'll get to the Godfather in a second. I mean, that run is great, but it's funny with Papa Shango, or Papa Shango, the voodoo spells. Like, obviously, maybe you're not that into it, but like as a fan, it's like, wow, making guys puke, the Warriors puking. Like, it was really interesting though. Like, from a fan perspective, it's like, wow, what is this guy? Like, wow, putting spells on people.
It was before its time, and the thing about me is, I wasn't talking to adults. I was talking to kids. I was scaring kids 7 to 12 years, kids.
Yeah,
I was telling you that I'd visit you and you wouldn't sleep at night. And that was my whole thing. I told Vince, let me scare kids. They're going to grow up and later on in life, they're going to be talking about me. And I told, and to this day, most of the people, when I paint up as Papa Shango, I have a lot of 35, 34 to 40-year-old men. They're just like, dude, you have no idea how you scared me when I was a kid. And they're telling their kid, no, you don't understand. This guy was a voodoo guy and he scared me as a kid. So, it's pretty cool to be part of something. I mean, to this day, people want to know how I made the Ultimate Warrior throw up. So,
yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's very humbling, because it's just a humbling thing.
That very weird color green, whatever that was that he threw up. Yeah, like neon green.
It was bad.
WrestleMania 8, though, I'll always remember that. Hogan said, you come down and interfere. I hated you forever for interfering in the Hogan match. What was that like? Was that supposed to lead to anything? Like, what was that all about as far as WrestleMania 8?
I think, I don't know, man. Like I said, at that point, I was just happy to be there. I knew that I was going to get a little run with the Warrior, but I think it was more set up to just keep the Warrior going until he got to Macho Man or something. They didn't have plans, and it really got going when Sid quit, because when Sid quit, they didn't have anybody. So I kind of got thrown to the wolves. They weren't going to push it that fast. But when Sid quit, it changed everything. And they were basically looking for any heel that had any type of heat going on them. So they threw me. I kind of got thrown to the dogs on it. But, business is business. And then I was going through a real bad divorce. And I went from being a nice guy to a guy they called the bear. And it was time for me to go back home for a minute and get my mind right.
Gotcha. Before that, was there any Hogan plans, or was Hogan going to be out of the
I've
picture?
never
Because
heard of any Hogan plans whatsoever. Nobody ever told me about any if there was.
would have been interesting, like a voodoo guy against Hogan. Like the big
Uh,
heel against
like
Hogan.
I
Yeah.
said, I was thrown in there. It wasn't a planned out situation. Sid quit and they had to throw somebody in there. So they didn't really have a lot of plans.
So when you come back, obviously you're going to be the Supreme Fighting Machine. You're going to be different. Whose idea is Kama the Supreme Fighting Machine?
That was Vince's. They called me and they wanted to do UFC had just started up and they had this guy named Chemo that was getting over. I guess he had some tattoos and stuff. And he was getting over. So Vince was like, well, you know how to, I've dabbled in a little bit of everything in my life. So he's like, you can do this, you can do that. You want to do it? I'm like, no. He goes, come on, Charles, we'll do it. We'll call you Kama, kick any man's ass. And I'm like, nah. I didn't want to do it. And then he says, well, I'll let you ride a Harley. And when he said, I'll let you ride a Harley, I said, I'm in. Well, I only rode a Harley for a short time because back then Vince didn't own a slew of Harleys like he owned with the OA, and he started buying Harleys for everybody. And so we had to rely on rented Harleys and bikes, and they'd bring in Sportsters, baggers. So they took the bike idea away. Once they took the bike idea away from me, I was ready to go. And so they asked me to stick on and do the thing with Taker, with the urn, and then I think I did a thing with Lawrence Taylor and all the football players. I think that was WrestleMania. I'm not sure. But when Lawrence Taylor fought Bam Bam and I was part of Money Inc. But I told Vince, once I'm done with these programs, I want out of here. And so I was gone after that.
Isn't that funny though? It's like they want you, but you're like, yeah, I'm not really that interested. Like usually it's the opposite in wrestling.
Hey,
Like,
believe me, it's a much better position to be in when you don't really need them. I shouldn't say you don't need them. It's good to have them, but I can survive without them.
yeah. What was your relationship like, or even if you have one now, like with Vince? How was Vince
I
McMahon?
will tell you this. This is how my relationship. On my birthday, May 16th, Vince said, "Happy birthday, big man." He
Nice.
messaged me. So if that don't say it that enough, I don't know what to say. I don't know how
Well,
many people he wishes happy birthday on their birthday. And
obviously
then
remembers
what
you.
was cool is that Undertaker's induction to the Hall of Fame. Vince walks all the way down the hall. His walk he does, and he walks back, doesn't put anybody over, doesn't put one person over. He comes by me, shakes my hand, and says, "Thanks for being here, Charles." So I mean, stuff like that is really cool to me. I know him well. He's a great guy. He's a great guy, and he's been nothing but good to me.
Have you always had a good relationship with him, even like when you
Yeah,
first started?
dude. People tend to get along with me. I just let it go at that. I'm the type of guy. I'm the Godfather. I'm the Godfather. So people seem to like to be around me.
Yeah, it seems like a lovable guy. Vince is remembering your birthday and everything. Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome.
Hey.
Taker better remembered it. Vince remembered it. Taker better have remembered it.
Oh man, I talked. Dude, he texted me yesterday. I got to have knee surgery pretty soon, and he texted me and asked me when the date was. I talked to Taker. We don't talk. Excuse me. I text Taker at least once a week. We text a lot, but we never. The thing is, never about wrestling. Never. It never has it ever been about wrestling. We talk about everything but wrestling.
That's great. I mean, that shows you the friendship. And you guys, I guess, like you said, you're kind of removed from the business. You don't really care too much about wrestling.
Nah, not really. I don't care, but it's not a big part of my life besides autograph signings and stuff.
You mentioned the Godfather and creating it. How did you and your wife like come up with that gimmick? Like, how do you come up with the Godfather of all things?
Um, it, it was just my wife basically saying, if you could find a way to show your personality with these people, and you're not a voodoo man, you're not an ultimate fighter, you're not a black militant, if you could just be you in a form that's entertaining and fun, I think that you'd really get over it. People would love you if we got the real Charles Wright out there. Just see people how crazy and silly and fun you are. She goes, people are gonna love you. And of course, I'm a big cannabis person. And she goes, and you need to get out there and start talking. Everybody, I used to say everybody smokes and just won't admit it. Okay, or everybody's at least tried it. So I was talking to those people. I basically told Vince, man, they see enough wrestling. They see enough wrestling. Let me entertain the people. Let me go out there and just entertain them. And that's what I did.
I always thought like that character fit, and Val Venus too, like fits so perfectly with the Attitude Era. You know what I mean? Like it was like the perfect fit. Like, could you like get a more perfect guy for that era?
Val, I always tell people Val was worse than me. But Val was much worse than me, but that too perfect. There couldn't be a better time for those characters. I don't think you'll see another porno star like Val saying what he did, but I guarantee you'll never see a Godfather in my form saying and doing what I was doing and saying. It just society won't allow it now. So I know that's one character that'll be put to rest.
Yeah, imagine saying the hoe train or something nowadays. Oh, forget about it.
Calling girls hoes,
Yeah.
telling people to smoke weed, roll fatties, offering girls like the sex trade, like offering girls for money, or the Attitude Era. Man, if you weren't there, you sure missed it.
Man, growing up in that era was great too because it's like you said, it's not just wrestling. You're so entertained at the show. It's like, you're emotionally invested. You love this stuff. You really got into it.
What was cool back then, I don't know if it's like that now, but every match meant something. From the first match to the last, everybody was in some sort of an angle on TV, no matter how small or big. But every match actually meant something.
And it seemed like every character was important. Like you had a role, a character, and like people always popped when you came out. Like everybody seemed like they were important, which was a great kind of thing as far as the writing was concerned. Everybody had their own level of importance.
I had my Godfather spot. I had the God, yes. So, yeah, man, it was a great time, man. And it was so cool because I had my own spot and I didn't have no writers. Nobody wrote for me. They would come up with an idea and I would run with it. I would have the finish. And then I would have 8 minutes for the match, and 5 or 6 of it would be me getting the girls in the ring, me getting the girls out of the ring, having some type of quick match, and then getting the girls back in the ring. So, I mean, that was all just me, man. And my wife did all the my wife had a seamstress making outfits, the vest. She had an airbrusher doing the vest. We had a jeweler making the jewel, hat company making the Godfather hats. She had outfits. I never wore the same vest on TV twice. I only wore it once and it became house show vest. So I had a lot of vests. But yeah, she was a very big part of it. I just did the silliness.
Is that normal though? Have like you writing your own material like for then, or is that?
Well, they didn't know. They didn't know what I was saying. That no, write for me. They wouldn't even ask me what I would. They wouldn't even ask me. I'm telling you, if I was scripted, I was scripted to say a town or an event, but not anything else. They didn't even ask me. They just let me be me. Nobody ever said, "What are you going to say today, Charles?" Nobody ever said that, and I would literally go out to the parking lot, go in my car, smoke a joint or a blunt, and think about what I was going to say. And I'd be with somebody. I'm not going to give up no names, but I'd be with somebody like, "I'm going to say this tonight." They're like, "No, you're not." I'm like, "No, I'm wrestling this guy. I'm telling you, I'm going to say that tonight." They're like, "You're not going to say it." I'm like, "You want to see. You want to see if I don't say it." And that's how it was. And the other wrestler, whoever I was wrestling, they had no idea what I was going to say. They had no idea. So I'd always keep it a little personal, just that they knew. And they'd be like, man, like the one time I told Taker, "I know you like hoes," and he's looking at me. And he had no idea I was going to say that. But it was just cool to have that type of freedom.
I could see you like making him break or making guys break. It's supposed to be serious, and all of a sudden you say something they're like, they're not expecting it.
From Vader to everybody, make everybody break, man. I almost got Taker. He got a little like that, like where you were stopped. But if you watch me say what I tell him, "I know you like hoes," you'll see Paul Bearer go, "Oh yeah."
That's great because like nowadays, I know you don't watch, but like everything is so scripted. You could tell like they're very back then. That's great. They're giving you so much trust. They're like, this character is so over. We can't write for this guy. You know what I mean? Like he's got to be himself. Like that's great.
They never wrote for me, like I said. Never. I even brought that up with Vince Russo, where I did a Brawl for All episode on the dark side of the ring, and I asked him, "Did you ever write anything for me on the after show?" And he's like, "Charles, nobody. We kind of just came up with a little we just kind of let you go because nobody knew what to do with you. So,
But you were over. You can't deny. You know what I mean? You got to
dude,
put them on TV every week.
I tell people I'm the most over mid Carter you ever see in your life. My pops would be louder than Stone Cold's. I had two pops. I had the pop when I would come out by myself, and then I had the second pop when I'd call the girls out. And that second pop would be, it was crazy loud. And then my catchphrases, I didn't even have to say it. I could have just put the mic up. It was very cool time. The thing is I ain't really changed much. I don't. We sold the strip club, so I'm not involved with that end anymore. But other than that, I'm the same dude that I was then. You know.
For the Attitude Era, especially being a fan, then like you had to live through it. You can't go back and watch. You had to live through it to understand, like the Ho Train, and all that stuff. I mean, you had to love it as a fan. It was awesome.
Bro, I sometimes people I'll post them on my Instagram, and I see some of my entrances, and I see some of my speeches, and I'm like, wow, man. I'm like, that's crazy, because I was living it, and you don't realize how big it is at the time because you're just having fun out there doing your thing. But I look back now, and I'm like, wow, that was just crazy, just crazy. The pop you would get and the reaction from the people, and they'd be, man. When I would tell wrestlers, watch when I say, I want to hear you say, Pimp, it ain't easy. And I say, when the people say it, it'll be so loud that you'll feel the heat of their breath. And people are like, no, and they would be, Pimp, it ain't easy. And the wrestler would be like, oh shit, you weren't lying. I'm like, dude, isn't that crazy?
They loved it. There's no doubt about it.
Yes.
Did you like doing the Brawl for all though? Did you like that idea?
All it was for me was a way to make some extra money. They're like, we'll pay you this much for a fight. And I'm like, all right, I ain't gonna run for a fight. How much? And if you win, you get how much? All right, cool. That's all it was to me. That's all it was to me. I wish I would have took it a little bit more serious. But that's all it was to me. It wasn't no political. It wasn't none of that. It was how much for 1 minute? And if you win, you get how much? Oh, hell, I'll make some money. That's all I said. But where I messed up was we had time to prepare, and I really didn't prepare. I didn't do nothing. And I just thought, I'll go out there. Hey, it's just how I am. But it cost me because I should have been more prepared for Bart. And, dude had knocked out 2 or 3 guys. And I'm like, he's no problem. And I should have took it a little bit more serious than I did.
Did JBL really? I know it's like he says no, but did he really guarantee victory? There's like Russo was saying, like JBL said he guaranteed victory.
Never say that. He didn't say that. That's people making shit up about him. All that bullying stuff.
Trying to get some heat.
JBL be a bully in my life. What he is an old school wrestler that was taught by old school wrestlers, and he had that mentality. And just the modern day kids and people growing up were changing, and they didn't understand that. But he by no means was no bully. He lived by locker room rules, and that were old school rules. They can't, those rules are gone now, but back then they were still in place. Kayfabe was in place. I mean, now kayfabe's nothing. Back then, you people really kayfabe. So I know people have stories, but I ain't never seen Johnny be a bully. I never seen Johnny there. Johnny never thought Johnny was like me. Oh, how much? Okay, I'll do it. What the hell could happen? So, I mean, that's just, that's my side of it. I know people have stories that Johnny threatened all that stuff, but I wasn't there, and I don't know about all that.
It's funny. I interviewed him not that long, and I asked him. He said, "Nah." He's like, "I knew I was going to lose to Bart Gunn. 10 out of 10 times I would have lost to him." But the story was like, "Oh, you're so cocky." But no, he wasn't. He knew he was going to lose.
He's not just. It takes a couple stories that some wrestler got butt hurt because Johnny threw their bags out for doing something stupid. Well, back in the day, that's how it was.
Right, and you wouldn't be allowed back in the locker room. Yeah,
different time.
Yep. But as we wind it down, head towards the finish, what was it like being inducted into the Hall of Fame? Obviously, a beloved character, but what did you think about being put into the Hall of Fame?
Took it as an honor. I mean, they put a pimp in the Hall of Fame. Come on. There's a lot of things in the Hall of Fame, but there's not too many pimps. Well, Snoop, but he's not on the other side. But I loved it, man. It was an honor. When I look back, like I said, I've been under a Legends contract since 2003. They still make my action figures. They still put me in their video games. They still put me. So my characters, even though I didn't like some of them, I put everything into them, and I got most of them over to the point as far as you can get them over, especially the Godfather. So, I had a lot of fun, but I think my body of work was there, and they're still making money off of me.
Oh, big time, big time. Is that one of those things where Vince calls you up and tells you you're in the Hall of Fame, or does somebody else tell you like you're in the Hall?
Mark Carano called me. I don't know if you know who Mark Carano
Oh
was.
yeah, former head of talent relations. Yeah.
Yeah, he called me and says, Charles, I go to WrestleMania every year, except during the COVID. You just might not see me, but I'm signing. You're part of this. You're part of that. I'm there every year. And so he goes, Charles, you're coming to WrestleMania this year, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm coming, Mark. He goes, well, who you bringing? I'm like, who am I bringing? What's it to you, man? Like, what? Like, I'm busy. I'm like, dude, I'm bringing just me and my wife. He goes, well, why don't you bring your whole family? I'm like, well, why would I bring my whole family? He goes, because Vince is putting you in the Hall of Fame this year. And that's exactly how that call went. And I was on my way to the gym. And I'm like, oh, wow. Well, I wasn't expecting that. I'm like, did they make a special wing for pimps? But it was an honor.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, think about it. What a run. It'd be if you just like Papa Shango, then Kama, then obviously the Nation of Domination, but then Godfather. I mean, that just puts it way over the top for me anyway.
There you go. That's the way to end it too, on the top.
Yeah. What did you got going on next? Like, what are you up to as far as what's like in the future for you?
Like I said, I have my cannabis line. I do appearances, but other than that, man, I'm not looking to do much more. We're getting ready. I live in Las Vegas. We're getting ready to sell our house here, and I think we're going to move to Pennsylvania. And right now, we're looking at a place that's like kind of in a rural area. It's got 6 acres, and I just kind of want to be left alone, and not left alone, but me, my wife, and the dogs, and I'm ready to just kick it, man. Enjoy life.
Nice. What's the name of the cannabis line?
It's called, like the jacket behind me, it's called Insane Godfather. And you find it all Dr. Green Thumbs in California. They can't ship it through the mail. And it's in a collaboration with Be Real from Cypress Hill. And it's a very good strain. As soon as I get off of here, I want to be smoking some of it. And check it out if you're in California.
And how about all your social media? I know obviously Instagram you love. So
Instagram, I'm the Godfather. I'm very active on there. It bleeds over to WWE Godfather on Facebook. But if you want to get a hold of me, go through Instagram or godfatherbooking@gmail.com. Godfatherbooking@gmail.com. Other than that, man, you'll catch me on Instagram. I have a lot of fun on Instagram. So you see the real me on Instagram, just living life and having fun.
Nice, awesome. And of course, check you out on Table for 4, which is then Table for 5 on Peacock too, to catch you in the BSK.
It's a good show. I really enjoyed watching it.
Godfather, thank you so much for all the time. Pimpin' it easy. Enjoy the whole train.
Peace, everybody. Nothing but love.